Right. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us for another WKS podcast. This time I'm with Leon and Charlie of a band called Royal Dirt. How you doing, guys?
Yeah, we're good. How are you?
I'm all right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Shall we start off
Craig. Sorry, I got interrupted. We're called Dirt Royal, not Royal Dirt.
Oh, right. Dirt Royal.
Yeah, Dirt Royal, yeah. Yeah, we turned it the other way around.
Okay. Brilliant. All right. Shall we start with Leon then? And sort of, how did you get into music in the first place then?
Well, that's a big old question. Obviously, like most people, I got into like music when I was a teenager, and I've always been into like performing to an extent. So got into sort of like Blink-182, Green Day, kind of pop punk, and then started hanging around with a few guys that were into that kind of music. Started a band, and that's how I got into like performing and writing and stuff. And then when I left school, I studied music for like years. Never got any better at it, but I still cracked on. Yeah, and then and that journey brought me to lovely Brighton. And then after a few years of being here, I met Charlie. So that's a little in a nutshell how I got into music.
Okay,
that's where
yeah, superb. What about you, Charlie?
Similar kind of thing. Like I got into Green Day. A friend of mine, childhood friend of mine, came around my house and brought a CD with Green Day on it, and it had Basket Case on it, and I was obsessed with that song for like a year, and I had it on a cassette because my brother. This is when like CD players, like portable CD players, were coming in. So my brother got one, and he gave me the hand-me-down of his cassette. So I had a cassette with just Basket Case on it for like a year. That's all I listened to. I didn't listen to any other Green Day songs or any other bands. But then I started getting into like similar sort of like your rock bands like Kiss and like Queen and everything. And then I got into punk, got into like Sex Pistols and all that. And then finally got into The Clash. And that's when I kind of wanted to start like focusing on songwriting. And I sort of really kind of started to take it seriously, like just the way that The Clash did things and Joe Strummer and lyrics and all that. And wanted to actually like make a band of it and not just, just kind of mess around. And then like Leon as well, like had a band at school. We were called Misled. We were a punk band. And and then eventually I moved out of like where I was from just because the music scene was kind of dead. And then I thought I'd go to Brighton to find my fortune. So I did. I came to Brighton, and then I met Leon at an open mic night, and the rest is history.
Okay, superb. So what sort of Leon, what sort of style would you say the band is playing at the moment then?
So we've had, at the minute, it's kind of like we've gone a little bit more towards our kind of pop punky kind of roots, like with the kind of stuff we're sort of musically playing. It's kind of like it's hard to describe, but it's not like American pop punky. It's still got that British thing, but it's like British pop punk, and that's kind of the musical stuff. And then in terms of our like lyrics and like what we actually write about, I think we're kind of at the minute sort of, we've always been quite into character writing about different characters and that kind of stuff, and now we're kind of at a point where it's a bit more autobiographical and it's a bit more about us rather than like abstract characters, because we were like, I'm into like the Ray Davis kind of writing about characters, but also it gets to a point where you are the character, I suppose, the more you get on. So we're sort of writing about our current, like the last Great Expectations was an album basically about us and our great expectations from life that maybe didn't quite pan out as we thought. There's a lot of stuff in the album that's like about nostalgia, and like Glory Days, for example, on the album is basically about people that have a certain thing that they are proud of, or like a moment in their life that they're always like harping back to. And it's that idea of like, you can't just always be like, oh, that was really good then, I wish it was good now. You've got to kind of move forward, and that's kind of what the attitude of the newest album was kind of about. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, I especially like Glory Days, because I kind of I mean, that was mainly like Leon, like kind of brought that to the table, and I just added like a couple of lyrics and a few bits to it. But the way I kind of heard that song for me, and it was also one of the first songs for the album, but it kind of felt like with a kind of sarcastic way, like, is this our glory days kind of thing? That's the way I sort of saw it, and that's what I liked about the song when Leon brought it, and that's what kind of my lyrics are about. Like I'm kind of saying, like, you know, am I going to look back at myself and kind of like oh, this is the glory as I'm always talking about this time, or am I going to kind of cringe at myself? Do you know what I mean? That kind of toxic nostalgia, and of like being in your mid-20s as well, of where like you're too old to be young and you're too young to be old, you know. And I kind of feel like the songs on that album were very about that, and just being surrounded by people, you know, staying in the pub too long, staying up drinking too long with people, and just getting sucked into that toxic nostalgia, and just listening to people try and tell you what to do with your band, try and tell you what to do with your life, try and tell you what to do with your girlfriend. And the album itself it's just a big kind of like a big, you know, I don't know, I could say it's a big fuck off to all those people, basically. It's got me. And you know, and the finishing song on the album is called "Lose Our Way," of which this was Leon's idea originally with the lyrics. It says, "We're gonna lose our way," and then Leon said at the end of the song, we'll do a breakdown where I'm saying we're gonna lose our way, and then you're saying we're never gonna lose our way. And then finish the last chorus and saying we're never going to lose our way, kind of thing. And that's kind of like what we wanted to end the album on, of like a final, like the journey of like kind of anxiety and maybe like melancholy kind of thing, ending with actually, no, we're just going to do what the hell we want, so piss off kind of thing.
Fair play. Yeah. So like, where, I mean, I assume all your music's on the main sort of streaming platforms and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your actual songwriting process like then, Leon? Have you got one main songwriter, or does everybody?
So the good thing about the band when we started is like me and Charlie both come from backgrounds of being the guy in the band that wrote all the songs, and that was kind of the one that like brought the material. And when we started working together, we wrote songs individually, especially when we first started. We already had a couple of songs like that we'd written, and then the more we wrote together, we realized that that's kind of, it's almost like what we'd been missing, because it is like having that other person's perspective on a song, or like, because there's been so many songs where Charlie's brought them, like "Girl in the Shop's" a good example. That was one of our singles from our first album, and he didn't like it. He thought it was a piece of shit, and I was like, "No, it's a good song," and that ended up being like, from me sort of championing that, pushing it forward. And also, it's always nice because, like, as a songwriter, you sometimes get the point where you've written a song, but you don't know where to go with it. You're like, is it finished? I'm not sure. And then you take it to someone else, and they can give you that help. And that's kind of how we started. And then the more we worked together, we started writing together. Like we do a whole song together. But it is like they tend to come in batches, and there's a little bit of how Charlie said to this before, we have that little bit of like friendly competition. Whereas if Charlie's just written a song that I think's fantastic, then I'm gonna go away and be like, okay, I now need to bring a song of that caliber to the table because I can't let him win. So that's kind of the process.
Okay. Superb. So right now let's I mean, you might not both agree on this, but if you could open as a band, for any band that's been either, you know, in the past or is here now, whatever, if you could open up for a band, who would you like to sort of, you know, open for? And that's to Charlie first off.
Okay. So I'm gonna say out of a band that doesn't exist or anymore, like, is that, you know, whatever, I'm going to say The Clash, for the reason that they are my favorite band ever. And I just, purely selfish, I just want to meet The Clash. And, you know, in this scenario, Joe Strummer's still alive. But also, you know, like, there's a lot of Clash in our sound, and, like, you know, I think it'd be a good gig, and I think their audience would get us and all that stuff. But then in a new in a real world now, I'd be torn between maybe Green Day, and then maybe the Libertines as well. I think it'd be quite fun to open for the Libertines. I think it would be absolute carnage.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And I think, but then Green Day may be more of a professional thing because of like the size of the concerts and all that kind of shallow thing. But I guess at imagine like a night supporting Libertines and then partying with them after, like, you know, it'd take you like a week to recover. Do you know what I mean? Come down from that high.
Brilliant.
But yeah.
What about you, Leon?
Yeah, so Charlie raises a very interesting point there, because you got to look at it from like a few perspectives. Like you do, like, so if any band that existed, I would say, just for like selfish reasons, I'd want to support the Housemartins, because they're like one of my favorite bands of all time. And we have like, especially early days, we have like a similar kind of sound. I'm very inspired by like Paul Heaton and the way he writes songs. So it would be the Housemartins like in the 80s, but current day, I probably would be Green Day, just because like it's a big platform. We could probably steal a few fans, like, and if you know, you're stealing fans, there's a lot of them, isn't there? So it's not like, you know, we've got more chance of actually getting through to someone, I would say. So yeah, Green Day or the Housemartins.
Brilliant. Okay, so I know we're coming out of the lockdown area sort of slowly now. But how, apart from the fact that you probably haven't been able to get together over the lockdown to practice or anything like that, have you found the lockdown sort of musically quite productive or completely negative? Let's go with Charlie on that.
I'd say it's probably been the most creative I've ever been, like on a in no competition to another time being creative, like mainly because like Leon has lent me a laptop with some recording stuff on it, so I've started like making some demos and we've been like sending stuff back and forth, and this is all for like when we can like practice again. But at the start, like, so this time last year when it all was kicking off, I was like kind of sat in a room with a guitar being like, right, well, I'm going to make the best of this situation. I'm going to write. And I just couldn't really come up with anything. And for months, I couldn't come up with anything. And then all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, like both started coming up with ideas. And then I think that must have been about June, I think. And then I feel like ever since then, it's literally just been song after song after song. And then there's been like a couple of like ideas and riffs from like 4 years ago, you know? And like with these like demos that like I've been trying to get together on like the laptop, just for the sake of like being productive and showing the guys what's going on. There's like 30, do you know what I mean? And like, so we're like ready to do another out as soon as we can get practicing, which we've got our first band practice this Saturday. As soon as that's like we're in there, we're just literally going to start getting these songs done, pick the best ones, everyone kind of put their input into it, change things around, and then just get in the studio as soon as possible, you know?
Yeah. Leon, have you got any gigs lined up then now we're coming out?
Well, Charlie has been on everyone that could listen. So like there's just a constant flood of emails going in and out of the Dirt Royal thing from Charlie, just like harassing everyone to get us some gigs. We've got some stuff booked. We've got we've got a few little gigs booked, and we had quite a few things booked like last summer before when you know, because we have the summer period where we could go to pubs. We did a Clash gig in that time, and we had some stuff planned for us, but obviously stuff got worse. So we never actually did like an album launch, which is a shame. There's a lot last year was getting the second album out, because whereas Charlie like sort of used the time to write new songs, I was sort of sorting out the artwork for the album. So that was a good thing for me. But yeah, we've got, I don't know, to be honest, Charlie books them and I turn up. If I haven't got anything else booked. So Charlie would be better at answering that question, but I reckon we've probably got some stuff in the pipeline.
Yeah. Well, we've got a few, and then there's a couple of things like people are like, yeah, let's look at this, look at that. When we'll get back to you in a couple of weeks when we kind of know. And then there's like a new there's a place that we haven't played before in Brighton that I want to go and I've been talking to the promoter there, and they like up for us doing a gig and stuff. But I just want to go and have a look, and I'm thinking about making that like calling it like a freedom gig or something. Do you know what I mean? Like like Time Out of Shawshank or something. Do you know what I mean? Some sort of relevance to the fact that we've been locked away and not been able to like play music and stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, but I mean, I think that'll be quite a while anyway, like probably like July. But I mean, I to be honest with you, I'm more just I really just want to get on with these songs, and they're sounding really good, and they're like it's a different direction, and I really want to crack on with that more so than the gigging, I guess, really, which is strange, really, for me. It's not a usual thing.
So you're not looking at festivals, maybe end of the year sort of scenario.
I think like we've got one confirmed for in Brighton, and then I've been chatting to someone one in Portsmouth, and it's all still a bit up in the air. And then I think the problem with that is as well, a lot of them are rescheduled, so they're just sort of like doing the same lineup sort of thing. So it's but I mean, you know, we're getting like a few lined up, because I mean, as well, if we're doing all these new songs and we want to be looking at recording a third album, you know, 9 times out of 10 with songs, like you've got to play them live anyway to kind of, there's only so much you can learn about a song in a practice room. You have to get out and play it, and maybe play it badly. Do you know what I mean?
Fair play. Yeah, no, fair play. So sort of let's think a little bit back a little bit. So imagine you guys you mentioned being at school in bands and stuff. So you're like, I don't know, 15 years old. And if you go back to that time and talk to yourself, what bit of advice would you sort of give yourself? You know what I mean? Let's go with Leon with that one.
It would definitely be carry on with what you're doing, but maybe practice guitar just a little bit more. Maybe because like when I was at college, we used to have guitar lessons, and I never went. And they were like free guitar lessons, and I had like free piano lessons and stuff. Go to that, learn piano, learn better. It would be like use the things that you've got around you more.
Right, brilliant. What about you, Charlie?
I agree with Leon. Like the whole, you know, carry on what you're doing. I don't know, maybe calm down a little bit. Maybe I tell myself, like, maybe rein it in a little. I think because, like, obviously, I'm self-taught with with singing, guitar, whatever, bass, whatever. But like, I think back then, I especially I couldn't sing, but I think I used to overcompensate for my performance. So I would like go nuts on stage, and I kind of got a reputation for that, and which wasn't a bad thing. But I think maybe I would maybe have said to myself to maybe not be so insecure, and maybe get some singing lessons or spend a bit of time addressing that. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's fine. It you know, worked out for the best. But I think maybe just for the sake of maybe some insecurities at that age, of like just you know, sit back and maybe look at this and work at this. Don't try and disguise it with, you know, being the craziest frontman in the world, you know?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Right, final question now, and it's probably, I'm going to ask Leon first, so Charlie gets slight advantage on this one. Is there anybody you'd like to thank for you being here musically now?
Ooh. Okay. Anyone I'd like to thank? Well, I'm going to straight up, my parents were always super supportive with like, they were just, because you get some, obviously they joked about me. My stepdad was always saying I was at Cop Out College because I was doing music, like, but they were always really supportive of it. They were never like, get a job, stop doing this music stuff. They were always well supportive. Obviously they were still like, you need a job, but like, that definitely. And same with like the music side of things. They got me into a lot of the music I'm into today, especially with like the Beautiful South. That was like a family band. So it would be my parents. It would be all my friends that sort of got me into different music, and who shared that journey with me. And I'd like to thank myself for being so awesome.
Love it. What about you, Charlie?
I definitely go with the parents thing, because like, again, as well, like I remember like I said to my dad, like, I want to play guitar, blah, 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 I want to be in a band. And he was kind of like, you know, skeptical, like, oh yeah, well, yesterday you wanted to be, I don't know, like Batman or something, which, I mean, I still want to be Batman, but it's not as, you know, it's not as realistic. But he was like, you know, okay, well, how much does it cost? It was like 50 quid for a guitar, 50 quid for an amp. He was like, okay, I'll buy an amp, I'll buy the amp, you buy the guitar. And, you know, a lot simplified it for him. I was like, how am I supposed to pay for a guitar? He was like, well, you got to get a job, haven't you? So the first time I got a job was to buy a guitar. But then that was my guitar, and he never ever, when I was being a little shit, he never confiscated it from me or anything like that. He never used it against me, because that the whole principle of that was that it was mine and I paid for it. So and like that guitar, I've still got that guitar. I mean, it's a piece of crap, but I've still got it. And like, so there's that. My dad for that, and he used to let us band practice. And like I said, I wasn't a very good singer back then, so like fair play to him for like being patient with that. But my mum used to make an effort with, like, she would think, oh, maybe Charlie would like it. Like, so she bought me my first Clash CD, and I didn't ask for a Clash CD. She just went out and bought it for me. I think she bought me like a Smith CD, you know, stuff like that. And my band, when we were at school, she used to take us to all our gigs as well, like in her car. So like that's definitely like a big one there. And then I'd probably say a shout out to Michael, he's got the record label who released our albums, because that's like given us a lot of opportunities and a lot of support, and it gave us a lot of confidence to have someone that you don't know basically want to invest in your music.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? On whatever scale that is, it doesn't matter. It's still great and, you know, mind blowing. So I'd probably say that. And yeah, I think I'll leave it at that.
Superb. Guys, look, thanks for giving me the time in the interview. Absolutely fantastic. And,
No worries, thanks, mate.
you know, hopefully you'll get your album out there, and then you'll get some gigs and what have you. And let me know if you ever get down this way, down to Cornwall, and I'll come along and see a gig.
Yeah, definitely. That might be a good tour date at some point. We'll have to.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'll speak to you soon.
Nice one.
Cheers,
Thanks, Craig.
Cheers.
Cheers.